listening to Rock and Roll Flashback with your hosts, Jumpin John McDermott and Bill Price.
Welcome to Rock and Roll Flashback. I'm Jumpin John McDermott, and we'll be looking back at some of rock and roll's greatest artists, songs, and stories. Today's podcast is part 3 of Rock and Roll Flashback's 3-part series called Shades of Past, Recollections of a Garage Band. We have been recalling one of America's most underappreciated garage bands, the Limited Sensation Domaine. From their humble beginnings as the Quad Squad in 1963, this band evolved into the pioneering and influential Astronomical Survey. As they continued to hone their garage chops, the survey became known first as Steel Hog and eventually as the Limited Sensation Domaine. The Domaine peaked in popularity around the time of their December 1968 Crossroads gig, only to suffer a series of musical setbacks and completely disappear from the American musical scene. Welcome back to Rock and Roll Flashback Podcast. We're talking with bandmates of mine, my friends from the Limited Sensation Domaine, David Douglas, a.k.a. William McKinley, Shannon and Richard Charles, a.k.a. King Rick Shannon. Good to see you both.
Good to see you.
Okay, you were saying about your parents. What were they doing when all this noise was going on?
I don't remember them being there that much.
Well, of course, my dad worked. He did most of the playing that we did after 68, 67, 68 was during college breaks. We'd have the winter break, we'd have summer, we'd play. And my mom was always, out doing something, whether it was PTA or, working in the hospital. Yeah, bridge club, that stuff. And then, of course, my dad was doing his stuff at U.S. Steel. But in the evenings, we would still play. We would go down there. They were sitting in the room watching TV. We'd go out into my dad's garage, which we immediately overtook. Poor guy. That garage, remember how he had it set up perfectly? He had all of his tools in place. He was building the TVs, the first color TV, which was 1966 that we saw. It was actually the first time we saw that color TV was for the Michigan Notre Dame game. And he was in there with that, or whatever that
I was down at your house for that game, the tie game, Michigan State game.
Yeah, it was at Michigan State.
Ended up being a tie.
He would degauss the screen because remember the colors would go all over the place, so he'd take that wand and wave it all over. But all of that stuff he had set up in his dreamland of building electric stuff because he was an engineer and his mind was
right.
That. And then we moved. Yeah, But fortunately, he still had the...
So he's sitting up watching TV while we're playing?
No, he was not in the garage when we were playing.
Okay.
He went and smoked his pipe elsewhere, tobacco pipe. But, it was taking over. But he helped with building the amp.
That was another deep cut from the Limited Sensation Domaine's controversial album, Exploring the High Seas.
Getting back to that CDs, what I can't begin to fathom is what my mom and dad had to listen to all the time.
Yeah.
They weren't there.
Oh, my God. Well, a lot of
They weren't there.
my dad, worked. My mom used to play her bridge.
That was another short example of music by the Limited Sensation Domaine Garage Band. I'm not sure if it was that summer or the next summer that the police arrived. We had the garage doors were open because it was hot in there. I guess a couple police cars showed up. Was that 68?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because we were echoing across the valley to
2 miles away.
down to Haymaker Road, I guess.
Yeah, 2 miles away. We were getting our sound out there.
And that was the noise complaint. And then your mother kind of rushed to our rescue, and she defended us.
Yeah,
I remember
the cops were there, and she ran out and said, "I'd rather have them be here than out on the streets, causing trouble." That's what she said to him.
Causing trouble. The police instead of causing trouble.
at our house, everybody went their separate ways. And then we came together for dinner. My father was similar to yours in terms of the cerebral engineering mind. Although I think, no offense to my father was not as social as your father. You know, your father was active in the community. He was a member of the school board, and my father was more into his work. He didn't really have hobbies. It's not unusual to see him at the dining room table spread out with all these engineering formulas he was working on. My mother was kind of into her own thing too, being a nurse, so it wasn't quite the same atmosphere at the McDermott household as it was in the Shannon household. Plus, they didn't offer me Carling Black Label beer.
No. Or allowing you to smoke. You know?
Yeah, because I did occasionally smoke a cigarette, yeah.
To our house, Jack, and you sat in the kitchen, didn't say anything for about an hour, and then get up and walked out.
When was that?
It was in that period of time.
So I came down to your house and just sat there.
Sat in the kitchen, and we were talking, and you didn't say anything, and then all of a sudden you got up and walked out.
Well, remember, now you can understand the climate I came from was one of Victorian,
Parochial.
just Victorian, don't speak unless you're spoken to, right, kind of a, and of course your family was a little bit more social, as I said. So I was absorbing it and learning. I was learning as a neophyte to socialism. I remember every once in a while we get the vanilla ice cream and the Charles chips out, and we ate that occasionally.
Yep.
I also remember once coming down to the house early on, probably when Rick was in maybe even 5th grade, and the door opened. You answered the door, Dave, and the next thing I knew, my solar plexus had your fist in it.
I punched you.
That was your way of saying hello. Glad to meet you. It's just a friendly greeting.
Yeah, Dave did that to me one time, and he actually hit me in my eye. Hey, I'm your brother. Good to see you.
I think that was kind of a special relationship you had there. Okay, we are back after that brief musical interlude. I hope you enjoyed a sampling of the music of the Limited Sensation Domaine. I think the date is correct, December 28th, 1968. I was home from freshman first term in college, and I brought back a couple songs that I've been fooling around with there. We had an occasion to be called upon for our famous Crossroads gig. Saturday night, December 28th, 1968.
The way that came about was our music was so loud that 2 miles across the valley, the minister of our church heard the music and wanted to be hip and trendy, and so he called our parents to find out if we would play for a real alumni dinner.
And were you at that time members of the church?
Yeah.
We were members of the church.
Because didn't your parents go to a church in Churchill at one time?
We went to Yale at one time, but we moved back to Churchill or to Crossroads.
Crossroads, okay. So Reverend Pearson got in touch with your parents. Was there any payola involved or not that we're aware of? So there was
We were doing it
gratis and publicity. Was there even food?
There may have been something in the back of the room. I don't know.
They did have food.
Oh, okay. All right.
And was Matt Winstanley a member of the church or not?
No, he wasn't a member of the church. I don't know how he got involved with us. He wanted to play the keyboards and wanted to play the flute.
He could sing also.
I don't know if he could sing or not. But I mean, he'd be better than us.
Yeah, I was just going to say, on a scale of 0 to 3, he was at least a 5 or 6. Yeah. He must have come over to practice with us in advance.
He came over, yeah.
So we actually came up with a song set list. And I know that the songs that we're positive about, at least in our dim recollections, of course, Light My Fire, Tales of Brave Ulysses by Cream, San Francisco Girls by Fever Tree. That was one of the songs that I picked up at college. And Jimi Hendrix's Fire, Yardbirds' Shapes of Things.
Yeah.
That's all I remember.
For some reason, I thought we did Sunshine of Your Love.
We may have.
We did. Yeah, I think we did.
And the challenge, of course, would be if we wanted to sing. And I know I knew the lyrics to San Francisco Girls, and I kind of think I knew the lyrics to Tales of Brave Ulysses, although when you listen to it, it's, Jack Bruce, he came up with some unusual lyrics. But I know those two I sang, and then, of course, Dave, you sang Fire. So tell us about the song Fire.
It got into me. I can't sing. I don't know why I was even trying to.
That's because you had your leather pants on, remember?
Yeah, leather.
Yeah. So you dressed for the occasion in leather pants, a la Jim Morrison. Your hair, of course, was fairly lengthy at the time, as was all of ours. You were in the persona rock star, Lizard King kind of a mood, I guess.
Yeah.
And something took over you.
Someone like me.
But you took over that microphone like a master.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, and the best part was when you said, move over.
Move over and let Davey take over.
Yeah.
And the crowd went wild.
Yeah, and at some point in time, I broke a string on my guitar.
Yep.
I think it was the E string, the little E string. And then you knocked over the cymbals at one point.
Yes, I knocked over cymbals, and then my snare drum, I always had trouble with the key, keeping it up, and it went to the ground.
But it wasn't the same song.
No.
It wasn't Fire that this happened on.
How many people were there? About 20?
Well, it depends on what time frame you're talking about. I think when we started, there may have been...
Oh, there was at least 20, I think.
Yeah, 20 to 30 maybe, because we had set up all those chairs. Remember, we went over in the afternoon, and we got everything all set up. We got our stuff set up, tested the equipment, and there were probably enough for 40, 45 people. But so the front rows, people sat down, and why they sat down in the front row, I have no idea, because it was a little bit loud for a church hall. Yeah.
Well, the songs were a little unusual for church, too.
Yes.
These kids were not the kids that would be doing what we were doing when we were away at college, I don't think.
Probably
Tom
not.
was.
When did we find out that Matt Winstanley was not going to be helping us out?
The day before.
Okay. So he did not go for setup. It was just the three of us.
Just the three of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, Light My Fire we did without singing. So
That was always familiar.
But musically, it was outstanding.
it was
That's all I
outstanding.
can
Oh,
say.
yeah. Well, and again, it's like so many things from back in that time. We didn't have smartphones and there wasn't video recording, a lot of video recording, audio video recording going on. So nobody can say differently, I would imagine.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out why we didn't record it. We didn't set up the tape.
Audio
so we could
record, that's a good
record
question.
everything.
So we're going along playing and we went through at least 5 songs. We may have done more. None of us can remember that far back.
We don't want to remember.
Somebody came in, was it an church elder or was it Reverend Pearson that came in and said that there was a movie in the other room?
I think it was the assistant.
He was
Yeah.
Korean.
Yeah, Korean guy, assistant minister came in, said, I don't know, he probably liked that Ed Sullivan, good job, boys, kind of thing, and said, while there's a break, I just want to let you know that they're showing movies of Korean boys choir or something like that up in the narthex.
Korean Orphans Choir?
Yeah, something like that. You're all welcome to come, and I think a lot of people are welcome to come.
No, we didn't play anymore after that.
No, everybody left.
That was after fire, and they started to leave, and we said, well, we're finished.
To avoid any more embarrassment, we're done. You can't coax us to stay anymore.
So
Tom
that was
Starling came up to me and was laughing and said, you sound like the Fudds.
That's a compliment.
that would be a compliment. Maybe he thought he was insulting you.
It was insulting.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if those people remembered that because it was probably not our highlight.
It was an attempt.
Right. We had a lot of humility, I think, after that.
And then the worst part is we had to take all the chairs down.
Oh, yeah.
There were no ushers or anything there to help.
I don't remember eating any food either. If it was there, I think we were so caught up and set up and tear down.
I was a little anxious because I'm highly introverted, so to sit there in front of people playing stuff that was hard.
Yes, it
and
was.
I do remember they had food in the back, and I couldn't eat anything. My stomach was churning a bit.
Yeah, well, I had played as a youth in piano recitals, but that was my first time in front of a whole bunch of people trying to play music, and it was a challenge. Today, I having been through it with another band and entertaining with my brother-in-law, it wouldn't be quite as traumatic, but it was traumatic then, and the fact that it was not as successful as we'd hoped made it memorable.
And it was in front of our
peers, yeah.
Yeah. which is a little tough. I mean, the only other time that I had similar to your piano recitals was in 5th grade. And you were playing the piano, by the way, during that. I don't know if you remember, it was for the PTA. And they had kids coming out and you played the piano and some other girl just going all over the place on the keyboard. And some girl played the violin. And then it came time for Ricky Shannon to play the trumpet. Everybody's out there, all the parents, teachers, everybody. Ricky Shannon gets up there and I couldn't hit this one note. I mean, the simple, whatever America is. And I kept, I got to see my mom and dad going, oh, dear God. And that was a similar feeling that I had when we played that night at Crossroads. That, didn't hit that note right. Oh, I know who was there, Jack. Chuck Talene.
Oh, really?
Yes, he was there because he went to our church. Chuck was there too because I remember him trying to play along with the drums. I remember him doing this. So,
okay.
Yes, he was there.
So there was some music appreciation in the audience.
Either that or he was trying to inspire me to do better.
Yeah. So anybody remember as far as the names? I do remember Astronomical Survey, and that may not have been a name very long, but I know that I remember going into either a department store or a music store and going to the music department and asking about, do you have anything by Astronomical Survey? They kind of, no.
Yeah, sure, kid.
Sure, kid. Whatever you say. Move along. Nothing to see here.
Don't steal the sulfur.
Yeah. And then the Steel Hog, same thing. I'm not sure how long that lasted either.
It didn't last long.
No. And when we went to our famous gig at Crossroads, did we have a name?
I don't think we used the name.
It was probably a good idea.
So there was no name.
It'd be better if we wore masks.
That was another short excerpt of music by the Limited Sensation Domaine. So you were at Point Park for how many years?
Many.
Okay.
Like 8.
And
He's still going to Point Park.
4 freshman years.
did you get a degree there?
Yeah, I got a degree, and actually I got it in 78.
Okay. So how did you get involved with the radio station there?
I was in journalism at the time, so I knew all the disc jockeys on the radio station. And 2 of them became my roommates at one time in East Liberty. One of them played the tape the first time and put it on fast speed. And so it was 50-minute song was about a 7-minute song. And that was embarrassing. Then the next time they played it, the other guy, Lee France, played it and played right. The funny thing about it was there was a frat guy that took acid for the first time when he was listening to it, and he freaked out.
He still hasn't recovered.
Oh my. At least he got on the airwaves, which I think's, and that would have been probably, would that have been the summer or the year of, would have been 1969, do you think?
It was 69.
Okay. Well, I don't know where you were with Susie then.
I don't really remember. We got married in 72 with a tambourine, and I asked her what she thought about it, and she said it was very loud.
Yeah. Well, and you said that she was there and Carol Rivers was there. I don't remember when exactly it was, but I remember we had, every once in a while somebody would show up.
Nancy participated on a couple of songs up in the bedroom. I think she had the tambourine or something, whatever, with her. She was smoking her Virginia Slims.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Please prepare your ears for this musical treat. Okay, so the three band members ended up getting married within a 14-month time period, and the Limited Sensation Domaine effectively disappeared in 1972. So how would you describe what you did post-band? Dave, why don't you start?
After the band broke up, the first thing I did was become a talent agent, rock and roll talent agent, and promote concerts. I did that for 2 years. Then after that, I went to be a DJ at a nightclub for 2 years. Then I moved to Atlanta, where I eventually became the director of regional marketing for Arby's. Did that for 10 years, then moved to Miami, where I took over corporate marketing for Arby's. I did that for 5 years, then moved to San Diego to take over Jack in the Box marketing program, and burned out on corporate life and moved to Los Angeles and became an actor in the Screen Actors Guild.
So while you were representing bands and DJing in Pittsburgh, you were also working on your 8-year degree at Point Park?
Yeah, I finally got a degree in 78.
In journalism?
After 4 freshman years, and I get 2 years.
And while in Atlanta, you met the great Henry Aaron in Atlanta.
I traveled around the country with Hank Aaron when I was with Arby's, going to different Big Brothers and Big Sisters events with him.
Great.
Got to know him really well.
And as a member of the Screen Actors Guild, you met a lot of actors. Of course, you were a double for a lot of them.
Double and stand-in for Jack Nicholson on the bucket list, and did a lot of stand-in for old guys with white hair.
and conservative business types.
Yeah, one of the best ones I stood in for was on A Clockwork Orange.
Oh, wow.
I didn't stand in on Clockwork Orange, but it was a start in Clockwork Orange.
Okay. Oh, the star
Malcolm
of that.
McDowell.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Malcolm McDowell.
Malcolm McDowell, yes.
Yeah.
That was really a good stand-in, and I stood in for Anthony Hopkins and a few other guys like that.
Yeah, so you can be watching a rerun of a TV show like House or a movie.
Seinfeld.
A movie like, an Eddie Murphy movie, and there's Dave. You were not permitted to do speaking parts, I believe.
The reason why is I wasn't trained as an actor, but I did a lot of cameos. On Reba, I was a minister, marrying Reba's kids, and I was on NCIS as a naval admiral, walking down the hallway with Mark Norman.
Oh, that's neat. You've had a varied career, I would say. You haven't really dabbled in music since...
No, I haven't gotten into music at all. I play keyboards at home and play the guitar sometimes, but I don't really do much of anything with it. I did write 5 books and had 2 published.
Okay. So, Rick, how about you?
Compared to Dave, my life has been a rather boring journey.
Well, you went to graduate school.
Yeah, I went to grad school, got a degree in clinical psychology and counseling, and then ended up in a 47-year career in human resources, working for various companies like Kraft Enterprises, Flat Enterprises, Scientific Atlanta, that type of thing. We moved to Atlanta, lived there for 30 years, and then Nancy and I decided we were fed up like Dave was with the corporate world, and moved to Kanab, Utah, where I became the director of human resources for the world's largest no-kill animal sanctuary. 2,000 cats, 3,000 dogs. It was great. From there, I got a job at Kona Brewing Company in Hawaii in HR, and then worked there for 4 years, and then was transferred to Portland, Oregon, where I worked there for 8 more years until we were bought out by Anheuser-Busch, and I said, tea time, I gotta retire, bye-bye. And then eventually moved to the Villages in Florida.
Okay. And I noticed behind you, you have some instruments. I don't know what those are. They could be ukuleles, large ukuleles or something.
There are about 13 guitars. I have a couple acoustics, and then the rest are evenly divided with Fenders and Gibson humbuckers and single coil.
So like David, you dabble every once in a while, pick up a guitar or a keyboard and fool around with it?
Yeah, I still have a keyboard and guitar. Yeah, I still have both.
Okay.
I don't play them anymore. I have an Epiphone guitar and a synthesizer that Rick gave me.
Good.
How about you, Sir John?
I went to graduate school for a couple years while Sally was getting her undergrad degree, and then I quit graduate school without getting my master's. So I have that going for me. And I was briefly collected insurance, did insurance, sold insurance supposedly. And then I got into retailing, first with Bernardo and later with the Bon Ton. And I was with them. I retired after 25 years with the Bon Ton as a store manager, and lived in a couple locations in Pennsylvania, York, Chambersburg, moved to upstate New York and in the Binghamton metro area, then moved back down to Uniontown, Pennsylvania. I actually retired 3 times, first in 2000 from the Bon Ton, then in 2005 as a realtor, and finally in 2010 after a 10-year career as a sales executive and assistant to the president of Mark IV Office Supply Company. Really, I've always continued to write music. I wrote a lot of music, wrote a lot of songs for my wife, and then my 2 daughters, I wrote some songs for them, and then my brother-in-law by marriage, we both married sisters, we entertained at Sally's family reunions on the 4th of July weekend. They would have neighbors over for usually a couple kegs of beer, and people were just having a lot of fun, and we would just play music and have fun and kind of a hootenanny style. So I kept my fingers in it that way. And then when Sally and I when we moved to State College in 2010, I joined a senior citizen jazz band, and I played guitar with them. I was the least professional musician of the bunch, also one of the youngest members, so I became the roadie at first, and then that's where I got the Jumpin John nickname. You know, back when we played together in your garage, I didn't jump around a lot, but I started getting into the beat, the big band, jazz beat, and I would jump around with my guitar. I never sat. And the leader, Joe Perez, called me Jumpin John once, and that kind of stuck. And then when Joe had some health issues and had to cut back, and basically I took over for him as the leader. I did everything from planning our practices to arranging for gigs. At gigs, I ran the soundboard and the mixer in addition to playing guitar. So I was wearing many hats, plus I had to haul all the equipment in my car. So I did quite a bit, and it was fun because it kept my hand in music, and it justified having, the few guitars I have sitting around. Sally, she gave me heck for having all this stuff sitting around and not using it. So at least I put it to use for a while. Because of the pandemic, the band had to stop performing, but we did a lot of gigs and performed at county fairs and all kinds of stuff. It was a good experience for me. And again, going back to my piano, it was good that I knew how to read music, because these guys, they maybe weren't music majors, but many of them were former professors of something who played in high school or college or military bands. They played their instruments, and they really knew their stuff. And it was kind of neat to be around those people. And they accepted me for my weakness and my organizational skills. Let's say that.
Well, Jack, all I can say is you've made the band proud by continuing the legacy.
It'll continue the tradition.
Yeah. Well, it's music's fun. I've written over 250 songs. None of them are published, but it's just something I've always liked to do, and it gets the creative juices going, I guess, and that's always fun.
Yeah, and I think it's more than 250 if you look.
Oh yes, yeah.
That I have next to me when we started out. I mean, I've got 100 of sheets of paper that, like I said before, you have lyrics, guitar chords. I have no idea where you came up with this stuff, these bizarre chords that if I try to imitate what they are, there's no way I could do it. But yeah, that was when you were about 13, 14 years old. So it was very, very creative, sort of the mastermind of our group.
Get ready, 'cause here it comes. Yes, that may have had some subliminal messages in it. We're not really sure ourselves. So I hope you enjoyed that sample of our music.
You've been listening to Rock and Roll Flashback.
This has been Rock and Roll Flashback, a podcast called Shades of Past, Recollections of a Garage Band, Part 3, where we have reminisced about one of America's iconic garage bands, the Limited Sensation Domaine. I'm Jumpin John McDermott, and until next time,
rock on, rock on, rock on, rock on, rock on.